Hey, good day, everybody. Welcome back to our Working Together series, live with Rabbi Karmi Ingber. We're just waiting for him to arrive in the Zoom meeting. He's been on a roll lately, going into a deeper understanding of the 7 Mitzvot, and he's picked a topic the last 2 weeks, so we hope to hear from him something just as profound today. In the meantime, let's say hello to our friend Rod down in Texas. Shalom,
Hey,
Rod.
how's it
You're
going?
live on the Noahide World Center social media page.
Yeah.
How's everything going down in Texas? I see you
First,
chatting
I
with
got
your
to
friends
say,
down there.
yeah, everything is going well. Really appreciate it. But I got to first say, thank you, Noahide World Center, for sort of partnering with us and allowing us to do this sort of joint venture together, because this is cooperation helps build our community. And so this is what's so exciting. But the other part of that is to see what's happening in the world of the Noahide. Rabbi Ingber's doing this amazing sessions that are about the Sheva Mitzvot, but he equated it to something like picking up a prism and shifting it in the light and seeing the different nuances of it. And that is what he's talking about, is looking at the Sheva Mitzvot from all different angles. And one of the things that I like to remind people that are non-Jews that come to study Torah, and you say, here are the laws that God has given us, the Sheva Mitzvot. Here are the categories, seven categories. And they all seem a little deflated, right? Like, oh, really? Just 7? And I'm like, if you only understood what that means, you would not say that. And those of us who have been in this world of study for 8, 10, 12, 20 years, we realize it's a bottomless cauldron of knowledge and wisdom. It doesn't
Veins
end,
of
does
gold.
it?
Yeah, veins of
Yes,
gold for sure.
absolutely. And I find it interesting. I like this show that comes on, and it's about those guys in northern Canada and Alaska that do gold. They go to old gold.
Yukon Gold. Yeah, our
Right.
Gold
So they
Rush.
go to
Gold
those
Rush.
gold rush. And they go there and they're just digging old pits that have been, everybody's left. Nobody's doing it anymore.
Yeah, yeah.
But here's the thing. It's like Torah. Gold, even after people have come through, gold will continue to feed through the veins and the creeks and the valleys and snow, et cetera. And I realized that you will never run the end of the vein here. Okay. You're always going to pick up nuggets, always going to pick up nuggets. So I would encourage everybody who is
you may have to dig for it
interested.
sometimes, but it's there.
Right. No, exactly. And if you're interested and you're looking for yourself honestly, you're going to find the nuggets of truth and knowledge and wisdom. And that's what the Sheva Mitzvot are for the nations.
Oh,
And
for
so
sure.
if you're listening this for the first time, don't feel shortchanged when we or a rabbi mentions, oh, the Sheva Mitzvot are for the nations. It's the most beautiful, valuable thing that we could have as the people of the nations. Don't feel shortchanged, because there's such depth of wisdom and knowledge.
Yeah.
So,
and it's always
Rabbi
best
Ingber's here.
Yeah, it's always best to learn from a rabbi, and we're glad Rabbi Ingber is with us today. So,
Absolutely.
Rabbi, we're going to turn it over to you, and thank you so much for hosting this class again. We look forward to hearing what you got to share today.
Recording
so we're going
in
to turn
progress.
it over to you, Rabbi.
Okay, good to see everybody. Okay, hope everyone's doing well. And we're going to continue. We've been talking about the 7 mitzvot. And understanding them. I want to move into the commandment of don't kill, which seems to be self-evident, right? Well, we got to understand this. Everything is so deep. That's the greatest part. There's no end to understanding. So let's understand. I'm going to ask an absurd question. What is actually called killing someone? What's called dying? What's called killing someone? What is it? What is it? Well, I want to give you the real clinical definition. The Talmud does go through, obviously, the breathing issue. It goes through the heart issue. It actually discusses this in the Talmud thousands of years ago to understand what is the determining factor of life and death, which is why that people should always consult with somebody who is knowledgeable in these areas before medical people make decisions of life and death that they don't necessarily understand. And this is something that is reserved to the Torah greats, and a humble person would understand that. There was a Surgeon General in America at one point named Dr. Koop. Dr. Koop, he was presented with a great moral decision on a life and death question once that came up in the medical field. And he said, I can't answer this, but I do know a rabbi who can. And he went to Moshe Feinstein, who was the leading sage at the time, and he told him what is the point of life? When is it? So the Talmud discusses in great detail the breathing air aspect, the heartbeat aspect, but I want to get the deeper lying, not the external definition. What is the internal definition of death, or therefore killing someone? And the answer really is that death is when the soul separates from the body. That's what it is. And it's a very deep issue, how it works and what it means. But the taste of death, and this is why this is great sages didn't taste death. Their bodies were like a garment they took off and put on. But generally speaking, the body and soul are interconnected in this life. And when there's a separation of body and soul, that is the actual definition of death. Now, therefore, says the Talmud, I'm going to give you an extra. Now, we're talking to great people on this line here. No one's obviously going to commit murder. Well, I want to share with you the roots of what this means, what it means to kill someone. So the Talmud talks about what happens when you embarrass somebody publicly. What happens? So what happens is you see the guy's face gets red, right? Beat. The blood rushes. It leaves him, goes to his capillaries, and he's red. Then the blood recedes and he turns white. And that's a little bit of killing someone. You could see it. Their blood left. The blood recedes, they turn pale, as if part of the life force left them. That is what is so serious about embarrassing someone publicly. Wow. Now, again, I'm not saying in halacha, I'm not saying in law now that a person embarrass someone publicly, that means it's death in terms of Noahide law, that killed somebody. But I want you to understand the deeper meanings of what is the idea of killing someone. There was a famous Jerry Seinfeld line. It was such a deep line. He goes that the number one fear in the world is public speaking. The number two fear in the world is the fear of death. So Jerry Seinfeld says it means the person would rather be in the coffin than the guy delivering the eulogy. Is that crazy? Why is the public speaking is the number one fear and death is number two? It makes no sense. Well, if you understand what we just said, you understand that now, because the fear of public speaking is the fear of embarrassment. It's the fear of being exposed publicly at some debacle. A guy goes to speak, and he has a wardrobe malfunction, and I don't know what happens, and the whole world's laughing at the guy. The worst feeling, people will kill themselves not be embarrassed. So that really is understanding. There are many, many, many aspects of what is called killing. Okay, I don't, I don't understand. What I don't understand the people who are, let's say, they're so sure they're pro-choice. What I don't understand is how did everyone know what's called life? At what point's called life? I mean, they can go and see there's some living inside. They know that. It's not like it. That's not like a mystery. We're not living in, in some cave where people think, oh, well, we don't know. The baby was just, he wasn't there. I ate a lot of donuts, and all of a sudden this baby came out. Nobody thinks that. Everyone knows there's a living entity inside. So yeah, Okay, hello, whatever you want to be pro, whatever, you better talk to somebody who knows, because do you know what's the point of life? Are you so sure? So murder, killing someone in our world, unfortunately, is not a very distant reality. It's a real reality. It's become not only accepted in American society, it's actually it's adored in a certain way. It's a statement of my freedom. Your freedom. What about the baby's freedom? I agree. You got a problem. I'm not saying a problem. A problem. Like, thank God you don't really have these issues in Israel, because if someone gets pregnant, then I mean, there are. I mean, again, I can't say you don't have it, because not everyone in Israel is religious, but in terms of the large percentage of religious people, so if someone has a baby and for whatever reason they cannot take care of this baby, there are many people that are looking to adopt. They're not trying to make this thing like, hey, go out, be promiscuous as you want, and it doesn't matter because you're free. You're pro. I'm anti-choice. I don't like people who have choices in life. What does that mean? We all like to have choices. But did you understand the two sides? There's a life here. So the issue of not committing murder as a Noahide law is a very, very, very real thing. It's a very real thing in the world. And there's many other factors about killing people that are very, very relevant. I gave you first the extreme to understand it, to understand the analogy that hurting someone is a branch of murder. Embarrassing someone, making them want to jump off a building because they're so embarrassed. So that really is already a like the taste of what this is, the breakdown in relationships between human beings. But it has many, many parallelisms in things that are real questions of where people don't value the sanctity of life. I'll decide. What do you mean you'll decide? How do you decide? You just when life starts. You know when life doesn't start. You have a right to take someone's life. These are strange things. Very unfortunate. Very, very, very unfortunate that this. And again, obviously, there are. I understand people have hard situations. I'm not blind to their difficulties, but you can't just paint it over and just say, well, yeah, well, I like to choose. so you like to choose. You can't walk down the street and say, oh, I want this person, and shoot them. Obviously, you can't do that. So let's talk more about this idea of murder. And I'm going to bring it for Dan's sake. Dan, this is for you. You want something a little juicy? I'll give you something a little juicy here. I'm going to bring it now into the realm of today's world. Today, the world is a very, very angry place. Everyone's very angry. I was like, I forgot what it was. Oh, I saw it. Someone sent me a short of a Saturday Night Live skit about COVID. Have you ever saw this? This was really funny. It was really funny. It was like they were making fun of the whole thing. It was really funny. And I said, these may sign Mashiach's coming. Saturday Night Live is funny again. Why? Because at one point they made jokes. Now everyone's angry. Everyone's got this, the right against the left and everyone's angry. Everyone's angry, and they justify their anger with their belief in righteousness. So I saw, I hear, I hear what's going on in the world. People trying to stop the genocide. Which genocide are we talking? Oh, you don't mean the genocide of them coming to kill us, kill the Jews. You mean the genocide of the Jews pinpointing, going to try to kill this guy, making a thing in Lebanon. They're chasing after, the entire system is voted terrorists into the system. They all want to kill the Jewish people, and the Jews are going around and they're pinpointing and trying to find the one guy and take out the head of the massacres, and that's what the genocide they're referring to. So I figured I will take a second since this bizarre accusation of genocide, just understand, is there ever any justification for genocide? Well, let's look at what the Torah says. Is there any case where you have a right to kill someone? Is there any case? Any case where you have this right to do something like this? Well, we all know self-defense. Yeah, that's a Jewish concept. Yeah, there is a Jewish concept. You don't need to kill the guy. You can shoot him if you can shoot him in the leg, then you shoot him in the leg. But however, if you don't know and there's a doubt, then you don't have to in terms of your self-defense. If you know it won't be, then there's no reason to kill the person. God forbid. But self-defense is we understand that makes sense. There's great discussions about that. And again, I'm talking theoretically. When we get into law, into nullified law, we'll go into details about it. But self-defense as in a general concept, we understand. But I want to ask you another question. Here's the question I want to ask you. I want you to go back in your mind to 1940, 38, 39. Okay, the Jews are being brought into concentration camps. Now, these idiots who go out and say, "Oh, they didn't fight. This is absurdities. Because what happened was, as my mother told me, who was in Auschwitz, so we didn't know what was going on. I don't think in the Jewish mind and in many other righteous people's minds they could ever fathom the level of evil of the Nazis. They wanted to commit genocide, kill the Jews. They couldn't imagine, and they hid it very well. We're transferring you to a new place. It'd be better for you. This is a government legal thing. They were very organized. This is what we have to do. There's a shit. The whole thing was concealed from them. My mother came to Auschwitz. She didn't know what it was. They didn't know what it was. It was like, I thought we'd be, All right. So they have stories. Oh yeah, they went. I want you to understand, when these people who died in the Holocaust, were very often great and holy people. So much so that Elchanan Wasserman was one of the great rabbis at the time. He was in America when the war broke out and when the Holocaust began. And he didn't go and say, well, I'm in America, I'll just stay put. He had a yeshiva, he had students. He went back. He knew he was walking back into the lion's den. He knew he was going to be finished. And he was with his students when on Shabbos, when the Nazis had the place surrounded. And he knew the end was near. And he told them, he said to the students, he said, listen, he said, you have to understand, this is going to happen. You go and give your life back to your Creator without any blemish. And if you could stop it, you stop it, but you can't stop it. You're going to yell and scream. No, they weren't afraid of death. They were Jews that went into, they were pushed into the crematorium. They were singing to God. So this person had no fear of death. He didn't. When it was over, he understood what it was, and he actually told the students, "If you go with these pure thoughts, you will help the Jews in America, who were the ones who are being saved now, to keep the light, to keep the mission going. You will help their journey too." Of course, we know the mission is guaranteed, but that was what they were doing. So now, let's say, I want to ask you a question. Let's say in the middle of the Holocaust, something happens, and they find out what's going on, and they get a shipment of guns in from their so-called friends who never really were too friendly to them. All joined in. They got a shipment of guns. Would it be okay if they turned around and started shooting and killing the Nazis? I think today, most people, because we already know, no, the Nazis were bad and they lost, and now everyone's on the, well, not everyone was jumping on the bandwagon. And Europe was kind of floating back and forth. But in historically retrospect, even the Germans don't want to associate with the Nazis. Okay, so nobody would have a problem with the Jew turning around and killing the Nazis. Now, I want to ask you a hard question. And I imagine the answer is everyone's going to say yes to that. So what's the difference if the Jew is turning around to kill the Islamo-Nazi, the Hamas people who say, my goal is to kill you? We know who the person is already. You don't understand. The Bible says, the Torah says, there's a nation called Amalek. We don't know who they are. Well, we do know who they are. But there's a nation called Amalek that needs to be eradicated. Now, oh, wait a minute. Is that called for genocide? Well, what's the criterion to be this Amalek? Well, you have to have the telltale signs. The telltale signs is you will kill Jews at your greatest expense. Like, as if somebody would be so crazy to be what's called a suicide bomber. You'll kill yourself just to kill them. That is really called a Malek. This is not a new story. This is an old story. This is an old story. This is a story of a Malek. And therefore, to kill the people who are Nazis, who go to kill the now wait a minute, but wait a minute. Wait a minute. Why do they want to kill the Jews? Jews must be this, they must be that, they must be capitalists, they must be communists, they must be rich, they must be poor, they must be successful, they must be not successful, they must be religious fanatics, they must be secular. They got a problem because the Jews are a giant spectrum. So there's always one or the other. So why do they want to kill the Jews? I'm going to tell you the reason. This reason is quite unbelievable, and it really happens right now in the Torah portions that we're starting now, the story of Shmos that we're starting, and the Jews coming out of Egypt and crossing the Red Sea. And as soon as they cross the Red Sea, as soon as they come out of Egypt, this nation of the Nazis, the Amalek, they said, we have to kill the Jews. Because the Jews now came with a mission. What was the mission, really? The mission was that the Jewish people had to align everything to show everything is from God. There's no separate power. Everything returns to its source. There's nothing but when a nation's mission in life is to be separate from God, I don't want to go there. I'm against that. They're against the Jew. The Jew represents to the Amaleki, to the Nazi, something that's so heinous. What Hitler says was the conscience, the scar of the moral conscience, right and wrong, and believing that it's this one purpose from one benevolent, omnipotent God, and everything is for person, everything is good, everything returns to its source, and God is the source of all power, and there's nothing separate that can have any other. Wait a minute, we don't want that. And that's why Amalek then jumped in to come and to attack the Jews when they left Egypt. That's exactly why. And so therefore, there's a telltale sign. And the telltale sign is the opposite of what the world says. The telltale sign is when this person comes against the Jewish people, and they've done it for years. We know these guys. There was Haman. It was Haman back in the day. It was Hitler in recent times. And it's people who will kill Jews at any cost, including themselves, which is what this nation is. I don't know exactly what to call the Palestinians because they're not really Arabs. The Arabs who know they're not really Arabs. What they are is they are a mixture. The land of Israel, which obviously, anyone who doesn't deny history knows Jews lived here for over 1,000 years. I mean, more than 1,000 years, quite a bit longer. Everyone knows it. Where the person's Christian and they know that Jay-Z was born as a Jew in Bethlehem, or whether they're Arab. Everyone knows it. Everyone knows it. The Jews, this is their land. Everyone knows it. It's clear in the Bible. Everyone agrees to this. And for thousands of years, Jews lived here. When Jews were exiled, and a remnant always remains, and a very great remnant. We talk about their learnings, their teachings. We learn their books. I mean, I have the books. So the Jews have been here hundreds of years ago, even when the exile happened. I mean, most of my books here are actually from that period, those periods of time. So the Jews always maintain some control the land. But what happened was there were nomadic people and different people that controlled it. Rome controlled it, the Byzantine Empire controlled it, the Mongols, the Turks, all these different people. And so I don't know what this nation is that is contending against the Jews now. They're not really Arabs on the whole. There's some kind of mixture, but when they adopt a philosophy of Nazism to kill, and their whole life mission is killing, that's a problem. So when people say, who's the Nazi? Well, you go by the telltale sign. The telltale sign is, for always history, those who came to kill the Jewish people for that sake. And that's why the absurdity. I mean, I told you before, I don't think I happen to disagree with the Israeli army. I don't think I'm not sure I don't think they're right what they're doing. But not because of the reason that other people think. They're running around getting our own soldiers killed because they're trying to meet up with some kind of bizarre pseudo expectation of turning the other cheek that no one ever does. No one would ever do. It's insane. So they're doing pinpointing. I don't know. I mean, I'm happy to save life as much as possible in the war. I think that's wonderful. Except when the guy's coming to kill you, they release people in the prisoner exchange. They're not talking about in the news. The day they released people, the guy they released was the person who shot 4 people in Jerusalem. The same day. The day they released them, he shot 4 people in Jerusalem. So what is it that that we're dealing with? So murder is one of the 7 Noahide laws. Life has to be valued. From it's a baby's life, if it's embarrassing your friend, you have to love and care about all of God's creations. So much so you don't want to embarrass them. You see, it's like a little bit of death. Certainly you don't want to hurt anybody. Certainly not to take a life and not to make flippant upon what's life. But there is a time where there's war, and there's no validation for the wars that they validate. The only thing that's really a war that is worthy of a war is when someone comes to kill you, and someone's goal is to kill you. That's an embodiment of evil. That's the point where a person's got to fight, and it's appropriate to fight. So we don't know. And it's very hard to, the only sign of this nation of Amalek is exactly what's happening. It's when they will kill Jews at all costs. I've always told you, Hitler made sure that the trains, instead of bringing firearms to the front line, were transporting Jews to kill them. That means that his own success in his own life was secondary to killing Jews. That's obviously a suicide bomber. Doesn't make any sense otherwise. So this is a mentality. This is a very grave problem, and that's why to convince the people who are saying it's genocide, why? Because those people are largely the real Nazis. We live in a very funny world where the Nazis are called other people Nazis. It's unbelievable. It's like if it wasn't so sad, it would be funny. It's literally, the people who, we want democracy, and therefore we're going to shut down everything you think. It's a principle of the Torah. It's called Kol HaPoisel B'Poisel. Whoever disqualifies someone is usually doing it with their own problem. This guy, they don't like freedom. If you don't like freedom, this guy's a Nazi. Well, maybe you're a Nazi. So the people see the world through their own lens, and you got to pull out. We got to pull out of it to see truth. The commandment of don't kill is the end of the road. That's when your person crossed the line; they're not human. But the root and the thought of it is to value life, value people. It was an amazing thing. It says that when Abraham saw the 3 nomads traveling, and he told them to come in, the story in parts of Vayera brought him in, and it says, and the sages says he was having a prophecy from God at the time, and he said to God, wow, this prophecy is so great, but I have to do the mitzvah, the commandment of bringing in these guests. So everyone says, how could that be? How could it be that the bringing in of guests is more than the experiencing a godly a message? It's the craziest thing. So Shlomo Kalbach used to say, because if you love God, then what you want to do is you love what God loves. I'll give you an example. You have a friend you love, usually like his kids. You have a friend you don't like so much, the kids get on your nerves. The friend you really love, his kids are snotty and they're running around, but I don't know, they're cute because you love him. You love what he loves, which is his kids. If you love God, you love what God loves. And what's that? People. That's what you do. So that is the root of we have to understand. We have to understand the value of life. We have to understand that this crazy world we're living in right now, where black is white and white is black, up is down is up. Nazis are the anti-Nazis. It's an upside down world. And the reality is there's truth in the world. The truth in the world has to be your guide. And you have to understand the sanctity of life. You can't take life unless it's a case where a person's a murderer coming to murder somebody, like the case of the Nazis. So then at that point, it behooves us to deal with evil. There's a time you got to deal with evil. It's a big mistake. I used to I hate to admit it, but as a kid, liking the Beatles and this and that, and some of the lines of let's say all you need is love, this and that. Well, it's a lot better than today. But the truth is that if it says, the verse says, Ohavei Hashem sinhu ra, the ones who love God hate evil. They don't say, oh, it's okay, it's okay. They don't say that. They only say it when it's far away, when they're not on the border, and then someone else's problem. But when it's their problem, so they don't feel that way. But if a person really loves God, if evil is here, the evil is there, the evil is wherever it is, I can't say it's okay. I can't say it's okay. And that is some of the depth of this commandment, of valuing the sanctity of life, never crossing the line in any situation, unless it is that type of war where a person needs to, because the person is coming to murder them, or as a Molech, as in our case, where the person is saying, my goal is to murder and destroy and to wreak havoc upon the world. At that point, then a person who cares has to say, you got to do what you got to do. I wish I didn't have to do it. There's a famous story. We all know it. I mean, the non-Jews, the other religions have taken the story from the verse in the Torah and made it a big principle. But it's a principle from the Torah, as different versions usually are, just changed around. But the famous story where it's a verse, it says in the Torah, it says, Yitalu chatayim min haaretz. It says that sins will be removed from the world, and then there'll be no more evil people. So yeah, of course, we want everyone to pull out that good in them. That's the story of Abraham praying for Sodom. It's the craziest story. Abraham is praying for the worst people. Why is he doing that? I just told you, he should have said, these guys are bad, get rid of them. What was his prayer? If you look in the story in the Torah, it's a very strange story. There's 10, there's 50, there's 5 towns, there's 10 in each town, and then there's 45. What's this thing about the numbers? Like this many. What he was saying is that if there's a kernel of goodness in a person, you want to bring it out. And unless a person has fallen to the level of becoming a Nazi, to becoming that level of a human being where they're not human anymore, they're just barbarians, they want to kill people. Unless the person's gotten to that level, that's called a Molech, there is that goodness in the person. And that's what we want to bring out. That's what we want to see. We want to see the person say, unless it's these crazy, but there are some people, unfortunately, there are suicide bombers. There are people that support murder and genocide. It's unfortunate. It's terrible. But if it hasn't come to that, the person's got sparks of goodness inside of him. And that's what Abraham was praying for. God, if there's a little bit, there's 10 good people in this city that could turn the whole city around and not remain with the bad, but let the good overcome and transform the person. That's what we want to look for. We want to look for the value of life, because life means a connection to the eternal. And people were created in the image of God. And their lives are so meaningful. I want to hug it. I want to embrace it. I want to help you. I want to let you express godliness in the world. God forbid someone should extinguish that in a human being. In all the forms we've talked about today, that would be a heinous crime. And the opposite will be to bring out their godly spark. That would be the most beautiful thing to do. Okay, that's my thought. Open up for questions, ideas, and comments.
Who would like to be first?
Rabbi, can I ask
I need to get my
question?
charger. So think about that a second. Hold on. It's my phone's dying. Sorry. Think about the questions. Questions. Very important.
Yeah, interesting topic. Really strikes to the core of all ethics for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I want to ask a quick question.
I really appreciate hearing the detail like that, because that really helps us to understand that it's just not just a simple, oh, I didn't steal from them. But I mean, when you're talking about stealing a person's character, destroying who they are, that's theft. It's just really,
Sure.
really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rabbi, I want to ask a quick question, because, I mean, I was working in security just over a year ago. And, of course, I'm working, doing a neighborhood watch patrol around a bunch of drug dealers, drug addicts. Anyways, I ended up leaving that job because I'm doing a patrol after midnight, and I had to confront an addict. And, of course, the fellow flashes a knife at me, and I boot his face against the wall. And it was all on camera. And, of course, so, it didn't go over well with the company. It was kind of like I was a little heavy-handed, they said. And they I left there. They said it was a breach of ethics. And the way I looked at it is, hey, this guy's got no respect for any rules or law whatsoever. And when I saw the flash of a knife, I just reacted. Right, that was I wasn't going to take the chance and get slashed or something, and I just reacted to disorient. It's not like I pummeled the guy and kept at him. I mean, the point being,
What did you do exactly? What'd you do?
Well, it's kind of where he was. I booted him right on the side of the face and pinned his head against the wall, kind of knocked his head off the wall, and it was all caught on camera. And anyways, the point being,
They didn't give you a medal? I don't understand.
Yeah, that's what I don't understand.
I'm more confused. Got you on camera 10 years ago. They would have filmed this thing. This guy would have been a star. You could have cashed in. It was 15 years ago, Dan.
Wow,
People are nuts. They're nuts.
Yeah. Well,
so did they relieve you?
A woke liberal mentality? No, I mean, of course, I end up fighting a union grievance, and of course, they got such liberal woke sway that even the union rep didn't file the grievance. Took the grievance, filled it out, and didn't submit it. And the point being, dealing with people of this mindset, all they see is victims and victimizers. And so, trying to understand, was I out of line? I mean, once I saw a flash of a blade, I just reacted. And was I over?
Smart
did I
move.
overreact? I think if I started dirt kicking the guy, I'd be overreacting, right? But my intent was to disorient and not get slashed. I mean, it's like
Dan,
nearly 1 in the morning.
Dan, you didn't do anything wrong.
No, not at
You
all.
know, you didn't do anything wrong. The only thing you did wrong is by living in a place that people are nuts.
Right.
And
Or trying to keep a
I don't know how to help
job
you
where
on
they
that.
want
I don't know how to help you on that problem. But these people are crazy. It's similar to what I talk about a Molech, which is happening now. It's anarchists.
Right.
The movement of anarchy, and that's why I told you, that's why I started with the first of the seven commandments is idolatry, because it starts with this this anarchism. There is no right and wrong. There is no God. Because if they have God in the picture, then wait a minute, I can't steal. I can't go and kill. Oh, but wait a minute, you're underprivileged, or your mother didn't toilet train you right, or whatever. I don't know. It's whatever problem we're going to justify. No, you can't justify because this is what you got to do. The idea of laws means that there's a responsibility. Idea of seven Noahide laws means there is a moral responsibility. The moral responsibility goes to everyone, meaning that, yes, it's a big difference when you accept the seven Noahide laws officially in court. You learn it from a rabbi. It's a new level. But a person who will do the mitzvahs, they're doing the seven Noahide mitzvahs, and its logic dictates it. Yes, you have to find the details because it's very hard, but a moral compass a person must have. And as long as they have a soul, they have a barometer. So, yeah, I will agree with you. If you grow up in a great training or a terrible training, you're starting life at maybe two different places. And God judges the person how he advances. So if the person was brought up in a bad house and he was raised at a level 2, so if he moves up to a 6, it's great. He moves up 4. The person was raised in a great house and he was at 7, he moved to an 8. He didn't do as much. So really, the guy who's the 6 might be greater than the guy who's has more, because he moved four notches in his life. But the point, if you have a soul, which a person who's living has a divine aspect that enlivens them. So if a person's alive, there's a barometer to the soul. Now, as you deaden the barometer, it becomes less productive. The first time, if it's something you don't know is wrong, or something you kind of think is wrong, you believe is wrong, you think so, the first time you do it, you feel bad. Second time, less. The third time, whatever. So that's a barometer. That is a natural barometer that a person has, because they have this aspect of it, and therefore a person naturally understands killing and stealing is not right. And so what happened is that the seven Noachide laws explain, direct, give the parameters, and with the details of how to make this meaningful, it's a beautiful society. When the society takes God out of the picture and there is nothing,
and
because
they
make it up.
Yeah.
So at this point, we don't know what's right or wrong. Maybe if they steal, they can steal because because it's your fault, because whatever. Because there's no right or wrong. Once you say there's no right or wrong, there's no objective definer of reality. So then you live in this mayhem, and it's mayhem. So you didn't do anything wrong at all. Of course not.
Rabbi, I got 2 questions from
guy
YouTube.
pulled a blade on somebody.
Yeah, well, sometimes it's part of the job, but how do you deal with it? I mean, even the police up here said, I should have a taser or at least a baton or something, but whatever. The point being, thank Hashem. It didn't end up ugly, but
Yeah.
Rabbi, I got a couple of quick questions on YouTube. Guela in Colorado, she's asking, would tattooing be considered inflicting bodily injury?
Tattooing, that's a good question. Tattooing for a Jew is forbidden. It's not one of the seven Noachide laws. A person can get a tattoo. I double check this because I have to always get from the Jewish to non-Jews. From a Jewish perspective, it's forbidden. It's actually one of the 13 commandments, but it's not one of the seven Noachide commandments. So if a person wants the tattoo, then the person can get a tattoo. I'm not a big fan of it personally, but but I don't think it falls into a Noahide obligation. So now in the 7 Noahide laws, is it a logical law? I gotta look. I wouldn't think it's necessarily called a logical law. I mean, it has maybe a taste of understanding, which is that God created the body, and it has a certain a sanctity. It's encasing of the soul. It can be used for wonderful things. It's has to be taken care of, and desecrating and harming the body is not a good thing. So that's part of the rationale that is against tattoos, but that's not an obligation for someone who's a Noahide.
Right.
And so the person thinks it's nice looking. I mean, again, times change. When I was a kid,
Oh yeah, anything can be called art nowadays,
only the
right?
sailors had tattoos.
Yeah,
it was not, it was not a common thing. So today it's like, people think it's nice, So I don't think, I would double check if you want, but I don't think there's any problem for Nochad who wants to get it. I'm not saying I would recommend it, but I don't think it's forbidden for Nochad who wants to, who likes it, thinks it's attractive. It's good. Obviously, if someone doesn't like it, you can't go and force them to get a tattoo. That would be stealing. That would be harming. That'll be hurting. That'll be bloodletting. That'll be all the various corollaries of stealing and harming that it could be. But if they want it, it's a problem.
One other comment on there. We kind of got a little thread going. Toshi's asking. He says, "I have a question. Why did God create good and evil?" He says, "Sorry if this question is not appropriate. I answered in the chat. I said the existence of evil is necessary for there to be genuine free will." And Guila said, "Without evil, one could not acknowledge goodness." And I said, "Well, they couldn't choose one way over the other." Can you weigh in on that, Rabbi?
Yeah, it's obviously a very, very good question and a very, very deep and long topic. So the short version is similar to what Dan just said. The short version of it is the creation of evil is really, in a certain sense, the point of the world, meaning that I know it sounds nonsensical, but it is that a human being should be proactive in his development as becoming a spiritual, godly person. That is the idea of the mitzvot. Whether it's the 613 commandments for Jews, the 7 commandments for Noachites, it's that a human being will choose to build themselves. God could have made us robots, but then robots are not building themselves. Even in that sense, it's the idea of the spiritual forces we call malachim. I know I say in English called angels, but the spiritual forces in the world, they don't have this ability to choose between good and evil. Human beings were given that ability so that when we choose, we're building ourselves. We're becoming more godlike, which allows us to experience God more because we did it. If you force someone to do it, then that's not who they are. So to give us the ability to choose and really to thereby build ourselves to be able to experience godliness, to be more like God. God is intrinsically perfect. We can't be intrinsically perfect. The closest we can get is that we made ourselves perfect. We made ourselves good. So what happens is to have that, you have to have an equal and opposite force that seems to draw you towards negative, that you could choose good over evil. But if there was no evil to choose from, then there would be no real mission in the world. There's a mission in the world. The mission in the world is that God created the universe in order that the universe can be completed by man in through his actions, and thereby get a greater godly experience because we did it through our actions. We're not just robots. So to have that real free will, we need to have the creation of something, that the illusion of something that's tempting, that is bad, that we can reject. Point of the bad is to reject it. Right?
Yeah.
You're right. Some people go with it. Some people believe all the nonsense, and they support evil, and unfortunately they're on the wrong side of reality.
Thank you very much, Rabbi. I'll turn it back to the Zoom class.
Okay. I think we're going to end a few minutes early today. Unless there's any more questions. Anyone got any last licks here? Anything they want to add?
Everything, I'm fine. Anybody else have a question before we go? Rabbi, we really appreciate it. Really do. Anybody
Okay.
else? Don't forget class tomorrow night with Rabbi Zvi Avner at 7 p.m. and then Rabbi David Weissman at 6 on Tuesday, and then Wednesday at 7, Thursday at 10. So if you haven't received the email, let us know. Send us an email at nativcenter@gmail.com. Rabbi?
Rod.
Oh,
wait,
Sandy,
See you all
Sandy,
soon. David,
Sandy.
get your guitar warming up over there. We're just finishing up the dates here. We're talking to Houston. We're getting ready for takeoff.
Houston, we've
So,
landed. Yeah.
We're planning that. We're also going to be in Florida doing some speaking there. If those who want. Our flight was canceled because our flight was a Delta flight, and all flights other than El Al have been canceled to Israel. So we're in the process of getting a new flight, working out the final details. But we look forward to seeing you all, and we'll maybe send out some other classes that we're putting online, and maybe Rod and Dan will share them with you all. So great seeing you all. I'll see you next week.
Sandy, you have
Thank
something?
you, Rabbi. Thank you very much. Wonderful topic.
Dan had a question. So one more second.
Sandy
had a question?
No, not a question. Just to let Rod know, Steve canceled his Wednesday night class.
Oh, okay.
So no class Wednesday night.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you, guys. Shalom, shalom. Thank you, Sandy. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you very much. Well, I guess that's our class for today, and they just shut the Zoom meeting right off. Anyways, Rabbi said he'll be back next week, and so he's covered 3 different points in Sheva Mitzvot the last 3 weeks, and he says he'll be back next week, so we look forward to that. So till next week, we'll be back with more of our Working Together series. Have a wonderful, wonderful week. Bye for now.